Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mahdi Tijani back with you. Going to be doing something slightly different today. You may have seen the whole saga a few weeks ago, Blu Jasmine, and how she blew up on YouTube suddenly as a result of some bombastic statement she made, which was, "My ex still pays my bills. So I'm with a new man and my ex still pays my bills." Now, I would play the video, but her tabarruj is like proper on display. It's too much. It's just too much. So I'll put the link in the description and you can watch the video there. But she vehemently defends the notion that her ex should pay her bills, even if she's in a new relationship, doesn't matter, for a period of time. And it just so happens that her ex has been paying her bills for the past 2 years, even though she's moved on, is with a whole nother man. She still lives in the same apartment that she lived in with her ex, and now the new man lives with her there, okay? So why am I talking about this? And how does this pertain to us Muslims? Well, I am going to be analyzing this from an angle of power games. Blu Jasmine, knowingly or not, is implementing a couple of the laws of power in this book written by Robert Greene in 1998, The 48 Laws of Power. And I'm going to explain to you what those laws are, how she is implementing them, and how you must be on your guard to prevent yourself from becoming a sucker to one of these laws, because it can happen to you even as a Muslim, perhaps not in as extreme a circumstance as this, but you can still become a sucker to a woman if you don't understand the laws of power and how they can be manipulated and used against you. And I've said this time and time again. Women have a much better feel for power play, for power games. They are much more in tune with playing on a man's emotions than men are on playing with a woman's emotions. That's the upper hand that they have been given as a result of their deficiency in physical strength. They're not as physically strong with us, so they have to be able to declare war on us somewhere, and that's the mental warfare game. And oftentimes, in fact, most of the time, mental warfare is more powerful than physical warfare. Why? Because half the time you don't even know what's going on. You see the problem? It flies right under the radar. So I'm going to break down two critical laws in particular that Blu Jasmine is implementing to be able to get this out of men. Because she's come out with it brazenly and openly, and still her partner remains with her. Still, she has many men courting her. How? How does she do this? That's the purpose of this video. So, the first law, and I've taken notes here, and I'm going to be reading from the book as well. Okay, so a bit of story time. The first law that Blu Jasmine implements is, act like a king to be treated like one. So we're going to turn to page 282. I'm going to read straight out of the book and provide you ongoing commentary as we go along. And again, if you haven't watched that video by Blu Jasmine already, hit the link in the description first to provide you with better context on what we're talking about. Watch that video and then come back to this one. Right. So, Law 34 states, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. The way you carry yourself will often determine how you are treated. In the long run, appearing vulgar or common will make people disrespect you. For a king respects himself and inspires the same sentiment in others. By acting regally and confident of your powers, you make yourself seem destined to wear a crown. Now you might be thinking, Mahdi, how is that acting in a royal fashion? How is that acting in a royal fashion being a H-E-A-U-X? I will explain to you as we go along. So let's get into this law. So I'm going to read off a story to you that explains this law very well. When Christopher Columbus was trying to find funding for his legendary voyages, many around him believed he came from the Italian aristocracy. This view was passed into history through a biography written after the explorer's death by his son, which describes him as a descendant of a Count Colombo of the castle of Cuccaro in Monteferrat. Colombo, in turn, was said to be descended from the legendary Roman general Colonius. and two of his first cousins were supposedly direct descendants of an emperor of Constantinople. An illustrious background indeed, but it was nothing more than an illustrious fantasy, for Columbus was actually the son of Domenico Colombo, a humble weaver who had opened a wine shop when Christopher was a young man, and who then made his living by selling cheese. Columbus himself had created the myth of his noble background because from early on he felt that destiny had singled him out for great things, and he had a kind of royalty in his blood. Accordingly, he acted as if he were indeed descended from noble stock. Pay attention to that. He acted as if he were indeed descended from noble stock. After an uneventful career as a merchant on a commercial vessel, Columbus, originally from Genoa, settled in Lisbon. Using the fabricated story of his noble background, he married into an established Lisbon family that had excellent connections with Portuguese royalty. Through his in-laws, Columbus finagled a meeting with the King of Portugal, João II, whom he petitioned to finance a westward voyage aimed at discovering a shorter route to Asia. In return for announcing that any discoveries he achieved would be made in the king's name, Columbus wanted a series of rights. The title Grand Admiral of the Grand Admiral of the Oceanic Sea, the office of viceroy over any lands he found, and 10% of the future commerce with such lands. All of these rights were to be hereditary and for all time, meaning generational. Throughout however many generations of kids and his grandkids and so on he has, that wealth will still reach them. Columbus made these demands even though he had previously been a mere merchant. He knew almost nothing about navigation, he could not work a quadrant, and he had never led a group of men. In short, he had absolutely no qualifications for the journey he proposed. Furthermore, his petition included no details as to how he would accomplish his plans, just vague promises. When Columbus finished his pitch, João II smiled. He politely declined the offer, but left the door open for the future. Here, Columbus must have noticed something he would never forget. Even as the king turned down the sailors' demands, he treated them as legitimate. He treated them as legitimate even though he turned him down. He neither laughed at Columbus nor questioned his background and credentials. In fact, the king was impressed by the boldness of Columbus's requests and clearly felt comfortable in the company of a man who acted so confidently. The meeting must have convinced Columbus that his instincts were correct. By asking for the moon, he had instantly raised his own status. By asking for the moon, he had instantly raised his own status. For the king assumed that unless a man who set such a high price on himself unless a man who set such a high price on himself were mad, which Columbus did not appear to be, he must somehow be worth it. Now let's hang on this sentence here. By asking for the moon, he instantly raised his own status. Blu Jasmine is essentially, or has essentially, asked for the moon by making such a bombastic request that her ex should continue paying for her regardless of their relationship status for a period of time. And she set that period of time at a minimum of 6 months. A minimum of 6 months. But he was paying for her for 2 years. But understand the psychological underpinnings that are going on here, because to the everyday layman, it's like, who on earth would do that? That's why there was so much outrage, right? But you need to understand, because she set such a high price on herself, she infects that idea into the mind of her lovers or ex-lovers, and they believe she must be worth it. There must be something special about her. This is nothing more than the act of a charlatan. She's a charlatan, in no different to how Christopher Columbus was a charlatan. The best salespeople in the world, the most effective salesmen, are the ones who genuinely believe in their product when they're selling it, even if they don't genuinely believe in it. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if they're selling a product and they don't really like the product and they don't think it's all that, but they know if they want to be successful in selling it, they literally have to lie to themselves and convince themselves that yes, this product is the one, this product is the bomb. Why? Because emotions are infectious. I've spoke about this in the past. If I laugh, you will feel like laughing. If you see someone crying on TV, you're inclined to cry. Equally, when you go to sell something, if you can speak with great enthusiasm about the product, you will infect the other party with that enthusiasm. Blu Jasmine asks for the moon. She demands categorically, you will pay my bills long after we are done. And guess what? She gets it. Why? Because she infects the other party, her ex-lovers, that with the idea, with the notion that, my God, she must be worth it. Who would ask for such a crazy demand unless they're actually worth it? And the crazy thing here is, she's not worth it any more than Christopher Columbus was worthy of these requests that he made, these bombastic requests. And yet still the king took him seriously. Why? He infected King Zhao with his confidence. Blu Jasmine infects her lovers and ex-lovers with her genuine belief that she is worth it. Now, this is not a praiseworthy thing. I'm not praising this. I'm simply saying, I'm explaining, I'm educating you so that you can be careful when dealing not just with women, with people in general, salespeople, business people, wherever you go, you have to be careful of this. But particularly with women, because they are much better at the subtle arts of communication than we are. Let's carry on. A few years later, Columbus moved to Spain. Using his Portuguese connections, he moved in elevated circles at the Spanish court, receiving subsidies from illustrious financiers and sharing tables with dukes and princes. To all these men, he repeated his request for financing for a voyage to the west, and also for the rights he had demanded from Zhao II. Some, such as the powerful Duke of Medina, wanted to help, but could not, since they lacked the power to grant him the titles and rights he wanted. But Columbus would not back down, just like Blu Jasmine does not back down. He soon realized that only one person could meet his demands, Queen Isabella. In 1487, he finally managed a meeting with the Queen, and although he could not convince her to finance the voyage, he completely charmed her, and he became a frequent guest in the palace. In 1492, the Spanish finally expelled the Moorish invaders who centuries earlier had seized parts of the country. With the wartime burden on her treasury lifted, Isabella felt she could finally respond to the demands of her explorer friend, and she decided to pay for 3 ships, equipment, the salaries of the crews, and a modest stipend for Columbus. More important, she had a contract drawn up that granted Columbus the titles and rights on which he had insisted. The only one she denied, and only in the contract's fine print, was the 10% of all revenues from any lands he discovered, an absurd demand since he wanted no time limit on it. And had that clause been left in, it would have eventually made Columbus and his heirs the wealthiest family on the planet. Columbus never read the fine print. Satisfied that his demands had been met, Columbus set sail that same year in search of passage to Asia. Before he left, he was careful to hire the best navigator he could find to help him get there, because he was clueless when it came to navigation on the sea. The mission failed to find such a passage, Yet when Columbus petitioned the Queen to finance an even more ambitious voyage the following year, she agreed. By then, she had come to see Columbus as destined for great things. Now, you might be thinking, well, Mahdi, she was basically making a business investment. You know, she's providing money to this man so that he could potentially go out and find some riches and everyone benefits. Blu Jasmine's not doing that. Blu Jasmine is doing that. How? She dangles the possibility of you being able to get with her. Now, if you watch the video, her ex made it clear, you want me to continue paying for you, you're going to have to get back with me. He actually said that. And she completely shut him down. And she said, no, but you are going to continue paying for me. She still asked for the moon. Now, he's a fool. He should have cut it at that moment, then and there. He should have walked away and cut his losses. But he's thinking in the back of his mind, I still might have a chance. I still might have a chance if I continue investing, and it's not an invest, it's a pure loss, in this woman. By asking for the moon, she appears to be different from other women. She appears to be more. She appears to be grander, more grand. Something special, something unique about her, because only someone special would make such a request, or someone mad. And she's clearly not mad. She's sane. She's in her right state of mind. But she's delusional, but she doesn't convey that when she's dealing with these men. She's infecting them with her self-belief. I believe you should continue to pay for me because I am worth it. Because that's exactly what you should be doing. And she infects them with that belief. Be careful, because you could fall sucker to this in different ways, in subtler ways. It might not be as an ex, but it could be, for example, as a woman who is trying to leech resources out of you. And you need to be careful with that. Extremely careful. Especially when she's not your wife. Interpretation. As an explorer, Columbus was mediocre at best. He knew less about the sea than did the average sailor on his ships, and could never determine the latitude and longitude of his discoveries. He mistook islands for vast continents and treated his crew badly. But in one area he was a genius. He knew how to sell himself. How else to explain how the son of a cheese vendor, a low-level sea merchant, managed to ingratiate himself with the highest royal and aristocratic families? Columbus had an amazing power to charm the nobility, and it all came from the way he carried himself. He projected a sense of confidence that was completely out of proportion to his means. Nor was his confidence the aggressive, ugly self-promotion of an upstart. It was a quiet and calm self-assurance. In fact, it was the same confidence usually shown by the nobility themselves. So he conveyed himself, he expressed himself as if he was a noble, and guess what? The nobles recognized that. Blu Jasmine conveys herself as someone special, and guess what? People actually see that. Even if it's just an illusion, they see the illusion. They buy the illusion. They buy into the illusion. In fact, it was the same confidence usually shown by the nobility themselves. The powerful in the old-style aristocracies felt no need to prove or assert themselves. Being noble, they knew they always deserved more and asked for it. They knew they always deserved more and asked for it. Now, do the nobles actually deserve more? No. Why do they actually deserve more? They're a human being like me and you. There's nothing special about them. They bleed red like the rest of us. But they believe they deserve more. They believe with conviction that they deserve more. And lo and behold, they get it. Blu Jasmine believes in this absurdity that her ex should continue paying for her. And lo and behold, she gets it. Now, I'm not encouraging the women who may be watching this to do that, but I am explaining to you, gentlemen in particular, because this is a man's channel. This is a channel directed at men. Be careful you don't become a sucker for this tactic. Be careful. Right. With Columbus, then, they felt an instant affinity, for he carried himself just the way they did, elevated above the crowd, destined for greatness. understand, it is within your power to set your own price. How you carry yourself reflects what you think of yourself. Man. How you carry yourself reflects what you think yourself. Again, Blu Jasmine carries herself in a manner where she believes that she is worth it. And it reflects what she thinks of herself, that she is worth it, even though we know she's not. But it's not the point. Just like a salesman can sell you a faulty product if he can convince himself to believe in it, if Blu Jasmine has convinced herself of these absurdities, guess what? She is going to infect others with that same belief. Be careful you don't become a sucker. Observing the process changes the process. If you ask for little, shuffle your feet, and lower your head, people will assume this reflects your character. But this behavior is not you. It is only how you have chosen to present yourself to other people. You can just as easily present the Columbus or Blu Jasmine front, buoyancy, confidence, and the feeling that you were born to wear a crown. And then there's a quote here by Friedrich Nietzsche. And it goes, "With all great deceivers, there is a noteworthy occurrence to which they owe their power." Pay attention. In the actual act of deception, they are overcome by the belief in themselves. It is this which then speaks so miraculously and compellingly to those around them. Their belief in themselves, not the words that come out of their mouth, not the raw words, but the belief is something intangible. You can't see it, but it's there. That belief that they have in themselves infects the other person. So, that's the first law that I wanted to read off to you, okay? And we can take a few pieces of benefits, a few pearls, I should say, that connected to this law and how Blu Jasmine is able to get this absurd arrangement in place where her ex continues paying for her. And this is not abnormal for her. This is a normal, like, everyday procedure. If you get with me and we break up, you are going to continue paying for me. And men agree. Wealthy men, by the way. She doesn't deal with bums. She deals with wealthy men. She's getting wealthy, established, successful men to agree to this absurdity. She has literally sold herself to them. Not sold her body, but sold them on the notion of her specialness, her uniqueness, which doesn't exist, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the illusion is so strong that they bought into it. Okay, the second law that we're going to look at, and this one perhaps is even better than the first one, and it goes as follows. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. Now, this whole book, by the way, The 48 Laws of Power, is just a series of stories from history that he uses to tie into as examples of how this particular law, or any particular law he speaks of, has been implemented in the past. I'm going to read off this story to you here. And it's the story of Nignon de l'Enclos, who is a French courtesan. A courtesan is a fancy word for a prostitute. That's all it means. Okay? Now, as a 17th century French courtesan, Nignon de l'Enclos found that her life had certain pleasures. Her lovers came from royalty and aristocracy, and they paid her well, entertained her with their wit and intellect, satisfied her rather demanding sensual needs, and treated her almost as an equal. Such a life was infinitely more preferable to marriage. In 1643, however, Nignon's mother died suddenly, leaving her, at the age of 23, totally alone in the world. No family, no dowry, nothing to fall back upon. A kind of panic overtook her, and she entered a convent, turning her back on her illustrious lovers. A year later, she left the convent and moved to Lyon. When she finally reappeared in Paris in 1648, lovers and suitors flocked to her door in greater numbers than ever before, for she was the wittiest and most spirited courtesan of the time, and her presence had been greatly missed. Ninyon's followers quickly discovered, however, that she had changed her old way of doing things and had set up a new system of options. The dukes, seigneurs, and princes who wanted to pay for her services could continue to do so, but they were no longer in control. She would sleep with them when she wanted, according to her whim. All their money bought them was a possibility. If it was her pleasure to sleep with them only once a month, so be it. Those who did not want to be what Nignon called a payeur could join the large and growing group of men she called her martyrs, men who visited her apartment principally for her friendship, her biting wit, her lute playing, and the company of the most vibrant minds of the period, including Molière, La Rochefoucauld, and Saint-Evremond. The martyrs too, however, entertained a possibility. So they weren't actually there for friendship. They were there on entertaining a possibility. And the possibility is this. She would regularly select from them a favori, a man who would become her lover without having to pay, and to whom she would abandon herself completely for as long as she so desired. A week, a few months, rarely longer. So obviously this is like the simp club. This is the simp club out here, okay? But let's not digress. Let's just pay attention to the story. A payeur could not become a favori, but a martyr had no guarantee of becoming one, and indeed could remain disappointed for an entire lifetime. The poet Charleval, for example, never enjoyed Nignon's favors, but never stopped coming to visit. He did not want to do without her company. As word of this system reached polite French society, Nignon became the object of intense hostility. Her reversal of the position of the courtesan scandalized the Queen Mother and her court. Much to their horror, however, it did not discourage her male simp suitors. Indeed, it only increased their numbers and intensified their desire. Now, let's just talk about that for a moment. Why? I've spoken about this in the past, about passion trap dynamics, and I've recommended for you to buy that book, The Passion Trap. Why is it if you find out that a man has been paying attention to your wife, your initial feeling, as in romantic attention, the initial feeling is disgust, but then the subsequent feeling that comes after that is an increased desire for your wife, an increased, at least, want to hold on to her. Why is that? Loss aversion. You're scared of losing her to the next man. And because you sense that you're about to lose her, your desire for her increases. You work even harder to keep her. If I gave you £10, you'd be like, all right, that's cool. But if I took £10 away from you, you'd feel that. You'd be annoyed by that. We don't like losing stuff. It's painful. Getting stuff is great, but losing stuff is much worse than getting stuff. Meaning the feeling of getting something does not compare, is not as great as the feeling of losing something. We are loss averse. And I've said this in the past. If you're in a relationship and your woman is dealing with other men, has other men in her circle, that she entertains the possibility of a romantic association, no matter how small, how tiny, we're just friends, still a possibility. This puts you in a negative passion trap dynamic where you feel extra clingy to your woman because there are other men, other male beta orbiters in her sphere that are hanging around, wishing, waiting, hoping that they will have an opportunity with your woman. Once again, Islam has the solution. No free mixing. None at all. Stay far away from it. For men and for women. But just to highlight the point. Why do you feel that extra desire, that extra want to cling on to your woman in that moment? Is because she has other men paying attention to her and you're scared of losing her. Blu Jasmine does the exact same thing in a slightly different way. Firstly and foremostly, she's on OF, OnlyFriends. I don't want to say the word, it might get censored on YouTube. She's on OnlyFriends. Now, whether a man in that type of circle, because obviously we're dealing with non-Muslims here, so I can't speak for their level of ghira, but just because they're non-Muslim doesn't mean they don't have ghira, by the way. Plenty of non-Muslims have ghira. They just express it at different degrees and different levels. But the fact that she has OnlyFriends means she has a number of men paying her, just like these payers with Nino, for the possibility of something. Men are paying for the possibility of a romantic association with this woman. Now, she knows, Blu Jasmine, that she will never give these guys a chance because most of them are bums. Right? But it doesn't matter. She dangles the carrot of hope. Do you really think that these men on OnlyFriends are paying to see her naked or half naked when they could just go onto Google and type get free PORN for free? No, they are entertaining the possibility. Maybe there's hope there that if I pay her and I have a more intimate relationship with her, that one day I could be with her. So now on the one hand, you have these beta orbiters paying for her OnlyFriends account, hoping, wishing, waiting. Maybe one day I will have a chance with her. The carrot has been dangled. And then you have on the other end her actual partner who will now feel slightly insecure that all of these other men are paying this attention to her. And now he tries to work harder to win her affections, to win her attention. Competition anxiety in reverse, where the men are in competition with each other, vying for this single one woman. That's not how it should be. It should be the opposite way around, where you have multiple women vying for the attention of one man. The dynamic has been flipped on its head. So she wins on both ends. She wins from the OnlyFriends subscribers, and she wins from her actual partner. And her actual partner can't say jack diddly to her because he doesn't have Islam. He can't say قال Allah, قال الرسول. He can't draw that line in the sand. And society has shoved it down his throat, especially in this female gynocentric society that we live in, that don't be insecure. Why are you so insecure? You shouldn't be insecure. What's wrong with you? There's a problem with you. Who's the winner? Blu Jasmine. On both ends. On the one end, she has the OnlyFriends guys paying for her. On the other end, she has her partner paying for her. And in the background, she has her ex sitting there, waiting, hoping, maybe. And because the ex is seeing all of these men pay so much attention to her, it must mean there's something truly valuable about her. And that's not true. But that's the way pricing works. Do you understand how pricing works? Okay. A Bugatti Veyron. Let's say the La Voiture Noire. Okay, it's a one-of-one car. It was sold to Cristiano Ronaldo for 15 million euros. Beautiful car, lovely car, nice enough. It's a hypercar, it's very fast. But is the car worth 15 million euros? No, of course not. Of course not. It's probably worth a fraction of that, maybe 10% of that. Yet how are they able to command such a ludicrously, ridiculously high price for that car? Very simple. So many people wanted it. And the more, it's a simple case of supply and demand. The more people demand said product, and the less quantity of that product there is, the higher the price you can command for that product. It's a rarity, it's a rare product, and many people want it. That makes it expensive. Blu Jasmine, she's a one-of-one, like everyone is, right? She's the only Blu Jasmine in the world. I'm the only Mahdi, you're the only whoever. But the difference with Blu Jasmine is that she has created an environment for herself where she's not only just unique in herself, as we are all unique in ourselves, but her uniqueness now, she has been able to structure an environment where many people are desiring her. That elevates her price or her worth or her desirability in the eyes of men, just as it did with this French Heaux. She created that dynamic, that environment. It makes her more desirable, just like that Bugatti La Voiture Noire. Exactly the same. A rare product, rare. When I say rare, I'm not complimenting her. I'm simply saying we are all unique human beings. No human being is the same as the next. But that's meaningless unless you are courted and desired by many others. And many other people want your attention. Then you become valuable. Then you become worth something. And that's what Blu Jasmine has done in a romantic sense. She has created an environment where many men desire her romantically. This now gives the illusion, sells the illusion to other men that, wow, she really must be something. And it's all just a facade. It's all a facade. Let's carry on with the story. It became much to their horror, however, it did not discourage her male suitors. Indeed, it only increased their numbers and intensified their desire. So just to reiterate that point, I have explained why that is. It became an honor to be a payeur, helping Nino to maintain her lifestyle and her glittering salon, accompanying her sometimes to the theater and sleeping with her when she chose. Even more distinguished were the martyrs, enjoying her company without paying for it, and maintaining the hope, however remote, remember, of someday becoming her favori. And let's just hang on that point for a moment. Maintaining the hope, however remote, of someday becoming her favori. There's a strange irony with human beings. The less likely something is to happen, the more we bank on it happening. If I told you you have a 50% chance of actually this study was conducted in you can find this study, I believe, in Dan Ariely's book Predictably Irrational, or one of his other books. And they did a study where they told participants that they either have a 50% chance of survival after this operation or a 5% chance. When the participants were told they have a 50% chance of survival after the operation, or I think it was maybe perhaps losing a limb. You have a 50% chance you will lose this limb. Something along those lines. Something bad will happen. When they were told they had a 50% chance, their anxiety for that operation was nowhere near as high as when they were told there is a 5% chance that you will lose that limb or that some bad consequence will come from that operation. Why? Because the less likely something is to happen, the more worried we are that it will happen. Paradox. Hence why you have millions of people playing the lottery. The lottery is the lottery. It is literally, the likelihood of you winning the lottery is literally impossible. It's literally zero. But because it's not zero, it's 0 point something, millions of people play it. The possibility, the dangling of the carrot, that maybe it will be me. Maybe I will be the special one. That remote possibility is enough to inflame the desires of people, enough for them to buy lottery tickets over a lifetime. And the same can be said of what's going on here in this story and what's going on with Blu Jasmine. That possibility spurred on many a young nobleman, as word spread that none among the courtesans could surpass Nino in the art of love. And so the married and the single, the old and the young, entered her web and chose one of two options presented to them, both of which amply satisfied her. Now, before I get to the interpretation of this, obviously Blu Jasmine is obviously nowhere near as smart and intellectually sharp as this, but she is playing a similar game. It is a similar dynamic, and that's how she's able to make it work for her. And I'm teaching you this and sharing this with you because I don't want you to become a victim of some nonsense like this from some chick that you're dealing with. Okay? Interpretation. The life of the courtesan, aka prostitute, entailed the possibility of a power that was denied a married woman, but it also had obvious perils. The man who paid for the courtesan's services, in essence, owned her, determining when he could possess her and when, later on, he would abandon her. As she grew older, her options narrowed as fewer men chose her. To avoid a life of poverty, she had to amass her fortune while she was young. Now, let's just talk about that for a moment. This is pointing to a very clear and obvious fact of life, that women are more desirable when they are younger than they are when they are older. Okay? And that's why you see a lot of sisters, for example, online making these outrageous demands when it comes to their mahar and so on, because on some level of consciousness, they know that what makes them most desirable to men is their youth, beauty, fertility. And that period, that window of time is protracted and small, and it must be taken full advantage of. That's how she thinks. Hence why you see these bombastic claims, because she knows, these bombastic requests or demands. Give me 50,000 mahar, 100,000 mahar. Because she knows, and mahar, for those of the non-Muslim audience watching, means dowry. A marriage dowry that a man pays towards a woman before marrying her. Because she knows that period of time is short and protracted. So this is just pointing to a simple reality. So for those women who say, no, I am just as desirable and when I'm in my 40s, no, sweetheart, you're not. I'm not saying you're less valuable or you're deficient or anything like that. I'm simply saying you are not as desired on the marriage marketplace. Fact. The courtesan's legendary greed then reflected a practical, to avoid a life of poverty, she had to amass her fortune while she was young. The courtesan's legendary greed then reflected a practical necessity, yet also lessened her allure, since the illusion of being desired is important to men, who are often alienated if their partner is too interested in their money. As the courtesan aged, then she faced a most difficult fate. Nignon de l'Enclos had a horror of any kind of dependence. She early on tasted a kind of equality with her lovers, and she would not settle into a system that left her such distasteful options. Strangely enough, the system she devised in its place seemed to satisfy her suitors as much as it did her. And this is the paradox. Because she courted so many men, had so many men in her orbit paying attention to her, giving her that romantic attention, she suddenly became more desirable. It's an illusion, but it doesn't matter. The payeurs may have had to pay, but the fact that Nignon would only sleep with them when she wanted to, gave them a thrill unavailable with every other courtesan. She was yielding out of her own desire. The martyrs' avoidance of the taint of having to pay gave them a sense of superiority. As members of Nignon's fraternity of admirers, they also might someday experience the ultimate pleasure of being her favori. Finally, Nignon did not force her suitors into either category. They could choose which side they preferred, a freedom that left them a vestige of masculine pride. And you see, there's the important point. You have to offer these options and you can choose. Blu Jasmine, she said, you can choose. You want to be with me? You don't have to be with me. But if you're not going to be with me, you're going to pay for a set period of time. And that comes back to the first law. But you don't have to be with me. Only friends. You don't have to pay. But she dangles the possibility, leaving that vestige of masculine pride. You see, where a man wants to feel like I chose. I am the one who chose to be with her. Such is the power of giving people a choice, or rather the illusion of one. For they are playing with the cards you have dealt them. Where the alternative set up by Ivan the Terrible involved a certain risk, it's another story. One option would have led to him losing his power. Nignon created a situation in which every option redounded to her favor. From the payeurs, she received the money she needed to run her salon, and from the martyrs, she gained the ultimate in power. She could surround herself with a bevy of admirers, a harem, a male harem, from which to choose her lovers. The system, though, depended on one critical factor: the possibility, however remote, that a martyr could become a favori. The possibility, however remote, that the martyr could win the lottery. Translation. The illusion that riches, glory, or sensual satisfaction may someday fall into your victim's lap, going back to the lottery, is an irresistible carrot to include in your list of choices. That hope, however slim, will make men accept the most ridiculous situations. And that's the punchline right there. Because it leaves them the all-important option of a dream, the illusion of choice, married to the possibility of future good fortune, will lure the most stubborn sucker into your glittering web.